We're not, well, we're technically broadcasting. Oh shit, I gotta shut off my mic. Sorry, guys, about the very, very late stream. This was originally scheduled for 2:30 p.m. CST, and it's
Your fault.
It's damn near 4 o'clock CST. But I am joined today
I
by.
can read my motherboard manual.
What's that, Lukasz? Are you looking up the time zones?
You wait a minute. You read motherboard manuals? You damn lightweight.
I just PDF them nowadays. That's the
I don't even
easiest
do
way.
that.
I actually
Screw it.
don't do anything. I just look at the motherboard and I just know what to do.
I pretty much just wanted to read the manual to the motherboard, which I own for 10 months, but whatever. Okay, let's keep rolling.
All right, guys, so welcome back to Talking Tech. Today I am joined by Lukasz Lis once again, all the way from England, and he's accommodating us. What time is it out there, Lukasz? 10:30 or 11?
It's 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Oh, 10
that's
p.m.
not too bad.
Yep.
Then again, it is a Sunday and you got to work tomorrow.
Yeah,
as well as Edward
Crisler.
I just want to make sure that I pronounced your last name right. And myself, of course, I am Gregory Alexi. Welcome back to the stream. Today is going to be the first part of a many, many part series, which we're going to be delving deep into 30 years, roughly, give or take, of consumer PCs.
A little over 30.
It'll be a little over 30 because we're going to have to touch up on what we've been discussing over the last
If we
hour
go back
or so.
far enough, it's over 40.
Well, we could do 50 if you guys want, but those wouldn't be consumer PCs. PCs, that's really the goal here. So,
I assume we diving in mostly into era when x86 IBM class PCs, personal computers, basically started to showing up. Like IBM's dream customer computer, which I can just buy off the shelf, theoretically for below $1,000. So I assume this will be mainly the era which we'll be diving in when also the 3D graphics started slowly to evolve. We start to get it more into 3D gaming. I assume,
that's essentially where we're going to start.
Do you plan to get something before that, for example, the era of the Amiga series? Because Amiga also was.
I actually still own
Spectrum,
an Amiga.
Commodore. If we can touch to that,
I have it.
Oh, you found the tinfoil hat.
You have your tinfoil hat. Perfect. So now we can start the conspiracy theories. First conspiracy theories. RDNA 0, Big Navi gonna be twice the performance of the RTX 3090. I call it.
We've had nothing but technical issues, and I believe it's NVIDIA knew I was going to be on the show, and they decided to sabotage us. So this is
Good
my
call.
proof. I've got my tinfoil
there's no
hat.
chance, especially with 5G.
It
will
RTX
not
can't
penetrate
get to my brain.
your
RTX
tinfoil
can't get there. They can't
hat.
brainwash me.
I will put aluminium can on top of my head because some people call me angry AMD man, so this might also be the Intel sabotage. So I need to have some big aluminium on my head.
Science has proven NVIDIA causes cancer.
All right, so we have two AMD guys. I'm a fan of AMD. Don't get me wrong,
I'm getting worried because I have one of their cards basically running, folding at home just below me, and there's Maxwell NVIDIA GPU doing folding at home below me, and I don't really want to get this cancer.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's some old school shit there.
She doing it.
Oh, I have
doing it from the film.
I have a
so I might be already
AM386SX as well. This is just something I pulled out from a computer over there. But yes, I'm an AMD fanboy. I always have been, as well as Intel and NVIDIA. Oh, look, yeah, an old NVIDIA GPU. ATI prior to AMD acquiring them.
That's a Sapphire Vapor X there. I see that.
Oh, look, another ATI.
No, it's not. Never mind, it's a Verto.
No,
I can't
it's
see
not.
Yeah, it's a Verto.
Oh, no, yeah, no,
Never
it is.
mind.
ATI
No, the
Rage
card
Pro.
in your hand.
Rage
I
Pro
thought it said
3D.
Vapor X. Yeah, ATI.
Oh,
look, another one.
I need to grab me box then. Where's me box?
Dude, I don't keep all this crap.
Dude, I have
I used to.
so much.
I have only a couple.
You guys are
I
gonna
have
love this,
to
by the way.
house
Before we get
full
into
of
the
slip
official
knot.
discussion,
I'm gonna grab my GPU
What is
box.
this?
I have like my
I
two little
can't
toys.
see it from here.
let's see if it'll focus in on
well,
that.
it's not focusing on it.
Yeah, because it's not set for that. I got it set for a manual focus. Anyway, it's the original Agea physics card before NVIDIA bought them out. Yes,
There you
I
go.
I
own
got
one.
myself a two little bunnies.
But that's
I got myself a
generally the
little bunch
discussion
myself.
we plan to have. I have plenty of other. This is my first GPU, the VIA Trio 64. Very first
Oh,
GPU that I
Recognize this
ever
bunny?
owned.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those were good times.
I also have his younger brother. I think it's two generations younger brother, I think.
This now it's turning into a pissing contest. Look at this one.
That's why I said I don't keep all this crap. I have no room.
Most of you guys couldn't even name what this card is. Oh, it's upside down too.
450, but this is just my two. I will say this is my most recent hands, and I just decided that I wanted to have a two generations of Fire Pro cards from Terrascale, because by the time when the Terrascale was running the Battlefield, I was basically on my Teslas and Fermis from NVIDIA.
Back in my
Some
day,
weird
we didn't
kitchen
have 3D
overlay
acceleration.
on the
We had
GPUs
2D
there.
acceleration.
Yeah, sorry about
and
that.
we liked it.
I'm in the wrong kitchen.
Oh,
apparently.
I remember that. I remember like Amiga times when I was playing my bloody Amiga 500 with bloody DualShock joystick, and I remember at first Elite, when that was the multiple generations later, we have Elite Dangerous game. It's like a space simulator, or I was playing Super Frog, or there were some Mario game clones. Oh, I remember all of those 2D games and everything. It was, those games there was some magic in it. And I remember when this sparked all my enthusiasm in all of the computers, when I had this Amiga 500 when I was like 8-10 years old and was playing with this thing.
I'm inclined to agree with you, because that really did spark a lot of people's enthusiasm, especially in our age bracket.
I'm 30 years old, but because I come from the Poland, which slowly at that time when I was 10 years old, it was like 8-10 years after the communism. It was getting this Western technology. It was getting these Commodores, Amigas, these Spectrums, these computers. I was getting some of this stuff which was like easier to get, like older technologies, and go this Amiga. And I was seeing this little black when I took the cover of this computer, and I just seen these little traces, these transistors, resistors, these little boxes. I was these little black little squares, and I was like, how it does this stuff? And I remember Mom got me as my birthday gift. It was a Computers for Dummies book, and it was the best gift I ever got in my life. In the 30 years of my life, that was the best gift I ever had. The Computers for Dummies, because that book also explained how those things work on semi-conveyor level.
Right.
And this allowed me to get like
piqued
Gregory
your
Lowe,
interest.
possibly Edward.
And you wanted to
That
learn more. How do these things work? And that's kind of the point of these types of streams, is just to give people an idea of the evolution of the consumer PC. I know Amigas and the Tandies, they're not technically PCs, but it was really those early days. I know, Edward, you've been along a little longer than myself and Lukasz. I'm not going to guess your age.
57.
I would have guessed 50. I'm not going to guess it nonetheless. Your beard makes me very jealous at the moment, because I have to shave mine. He's going to be the Joker soon enough.
Shave? Why do you have to shave?
Oh, I had this massive burly beard. It just, I'm playing Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Gregory.
Yes, sir.
You should keep.
What, the beard?
You should keep that beard.
Well, no, I can't, because the Joker never had a beard. and I need to put on the makeup.
Who cares?
It grows back in a few days.
Okay.
Well,
But
that's true, and you get the joy of regrowing the beard.
yeah, exactly. Every time you shave it, it regrows. That's the beauty of it. But
I have this problem
Edward,
with my family. I cannot grow the
can't
beard.
grow
I
your
just
beard.
like to
You have like a
it.
Joseph the Ponzi beard. It's
It
like a
was,
Viking beard. I don't know what your ancestry line is like or your lineage, but that is one hell of a freaking beard.
I was going to say it's interesting when you go all the way back, because we were talking about this. The first consumer computer. Now there were computers for consumers before this,
Right.
but this was the first one designed for the general home market. It was the Tandy Model 1.
Right.
And what was so interesting was it was like do either of you, are you old enough to remember Heathkit?
I am not.
Do you guys remember Heathkit? Okay, well these were
fake.
These were like radios and other devices that you had to put together. So the Tandy Model 1 was kind of that for my generation. It was something that none of us understood. This hadn't been taught in schools yet. None of us understood this.
Right.
None of us knew what this was. I'm learning BASIC from a book and writing my own games because the stuff doesn't really exist yet.
Right.
And it was just, so my grandfather bought me a Tandy Model 1 just shortly after.
Some books like that?
Yeah, but mine had more pictures, I'll bet.
Yeah, mine is all about the text. Mine is all just bloody text.
I read everything in PDF nowadays, guys. Sorry. Outside of actual books. When it comes to text stuff, everything's on PDF nowadays. But yeah, the Tandy was a game changer. But go ahead,
It
Edward.
was. But he bought it for me. So I get it home, and about 2 weeks later, he wanted to come over to see what I was doing with it. He wanted to see, because he was curious. His generation had never seen anything like this.
And you were just
the problem
a kid.
I'd had was...
So to them, it was like... It was mind-boggling to them, but I'd imagine for you, as it was for me, and I'm sure as it was for Lukasz, it was more fascinating than anything, and we wanted to wrap our minds around not just what it was, but how it worked. Every last component.
Well, you see, as I said, books which I have.
He came over to see what had happened and what I didn't realize he was coming
very old
over.
books.
And the day before, I had opened it up because I wanted to see how it worked. And I got the worst beating of my life because he'd spent all this money buying this, and I'd taken it apart. That was my first computer repair job, by the way. I was able to put
do you want me to read it to you, Gregory?
What's that, Lukasz?
Yeah, do you want me to read these books to you, Gregory? The titles of them?
Maybe when I'm ready for bed. You could read me a lullaby. I'd love to have those books. But I can find them in PDF as well.
They are my little Bibles.
But yeah,
I'm still on the process. Because, all of this, when you look at a conveyor level, it's like a big math factory, this computer. It's like it just gets this arithmetic data, just how bits basically signal on and off. And for me, it's so fascinating. And that's why I have this massive issue. I might be from this younger age generation gamers when you look at my age, but I started all of these games when my games had 8-bit graphics on Amiga 500, and for me it was fascinating. So, and when I look at that, we're basically looking at the binary signals, zeros and ones.
Yeah,
and
Lukasz, you're
complicated. I'm getting into a new game, and
latency is pretty
terrible.
crazy.
Yeah, he's like a mile behind us, isn't he?
A few miles across the pond. But yeah, the Tandy really did start a lot, didn't it? As well as the Amiga and, of course, the Macintosh. But as far as PCs,
and there was a buttload of stuff in between there, by the way. There
I
was
know.
so much in between there. You had the Timex Sinclair, which was amazing for how small it was, what it could do. You had the whole Tandy line with CMP coming up. You had Tandy develop the color computer for the home market. You had Texas Instruments bring on the TI 99 4A, which was at the time the most advanced technological computer that was introduced. Commodore with its PET.
Oh, the Commodore was
Atari
just
got in
absolutely
it.
insane, but it was very proprietary, which really is what
Well,
killed
so was
it
Alright,
all.
Atari.
Gregory.
So was Atari.
Yeah, same with Atari and Amiga, and sadly, Apple was the only one. Well, Macintosh at the time, they were the only one to pull that off.
Everybody was a closed garden back then. There was no such thing as an open system. You bought into a system, just like Apple. Commodore was the same way, and Commodore changed model to model drastically.
Right.
If you had a Commodore 64, a Commodore 128 could run the same software, but the Amiga couldn't.
Right.
If you had an Atari if you had an Atari 800XL or 600XL, you could run the same software. The Atari ST comes out, you couldn't run the same stuff. But these were closed systems. You couldn't buy a piece of software for your Atari and then just put the disk in your Amiga.
Right. And I remember my Amiga,
no
it didn't even have an OS. It just ran off the disks.
Yeah, it was actually a lot of the OSs were on chips
Yeah,
back then.
The kickstart. The so-called kickstart.
Yeah, it was literally it was a boot. It booted straight from the floppy disk. Period. There was
I still remember
no
that.
OS.
I still remember that.
I missed that thing.
I still remember that very on when you was booting the Amiga and it was showing you that you need to insert the disk. And I remember having this old bit box with like I had I don't know, there was like a 50 floppies over there with there was like a 30 floppies. There was like a 30 floppies of the games, like a 10 floppies with like a software, which I have a drawing software. And I had like a software also for Office, which my mom used because when she got Amiga, well, she expected to have a computer which could help her with work, but unfortunately, this computer turned into a little gaming machine.
As it should have.
Because the matey who popped in,
and
the matey, yeah, and the thing is that when the matey, who's supposed to teach my mom, that was some friend who was, I think, a brother of a mate from work, and she works in a zoo, basically. For many, many years. And when he popped out, he was like big in the scene when there was like Amigas, I think Spectrums, and all of those, like Sega computers for all of this gaming scene basically building up on very basically. He had some ports of the games from ZX Spectrum or Amigas on the Windows 95 and 98 machines, which was when he put like an Alien game, like a 2D scroller game. That was just absolutely amazing.
That was also the dawn of DirectX. As well as Direct 3D.
And I remember that he's supposed to pop in and just basically set up the machine with for my mom so she can print the documents and everything. And at the very end of the things, that Amiga became a gaming computer for the whole family, including my mom. And that's amazing times when I think of it, but like 20 plus years ago with those Amigas, when all of this was like a new thing. You didn't really knew what to expect. How does it work? There was no schools about it, like you had said.
Well, I mean, DirectX in and of itself.
A couple of real people who knew how it works, because they was like deep into the technology from a couple of years, and there was like the older guys already by the time. And they been start working on this but the computers was built from the ramp transistors. So, and this progress in technology, for me, it's actually accelerating. Even if this says that the Moore's law is dead, for me, still
which
this
it's not.
Technology is still accelerating.
Shannon and I had that discussion.
Definitely it's not.
In regards to TSMC, it's definitely not dead. It was stagnated for a while, mainly due to complacency on AMD's end, but Moore's Law is definitely not that it will die. But it's picked up tremendously, and we are right back into it. But addressing,
I wouldn't say that Morlow is going to die, because that was said for so many years when you had
another theory.
When you didn't have nanometers, it was micrometers. When you had the processors built in the micrometers and the nanometers, and I remember reading in 2012 when IBM built the first 7-nanometer transistor, and there was awards that. But 7-nanometer processors will never be able to exist because the electromagnetic interference and how they are packed up and how many of them is gonna just explode on its own.
The more complicated it's going to become to receive clean signals.
Computer running 7-nanometer
processor. We've totally left the topic.
I know. Right? That's why I'm trying to get it back on topic. As far as back in the day. The DOS days, and this particular PC, which I'm going to pick up right now, which I was trying to boot up so I could actually run it through the stream. It's a big one. This is from 1989.
Which processor it's run, by the way?
It's actually running the processor batch itself is dated 1989. It's an Intel i46. 66 megahertz with a turbo button.
There, I'm coming back.
But this is not working well with the green screen. It's adding a lot of shadows. Beautiful. But I could not get this to work with my pass-through port, my VGA to HDMI pass-through port, and I'm assuming it's due to the ISA 32-bit GPU that I was using, which wasn't actually a GPU. They weren't GPUs yet. They were simply...
No, they weren't.
They were not GPUs yet. And there were really no APIs to support them during the DOS days. And that's a big thing about, gaming back in those days. And I'm sure, Edward, you remember this, when DOS was very prevalent and far before Windows 95, which in my opinion was a real operating system. I don't believe Windows 3.0, 3.1 was an operating system. It was more so of just a GUI to DOS. It was a GUI to DOS.
So
it really was. It really was.
So what you had was, and this is, most people don't even understand how Windows got to where it is today. So everything was written in DOS, as you said, and Windows was basically an overlay. It was a menu system that was laid on top of DOS.
Yeah, like a graphic user interference overlay, instead of using all of this typing and getting through the command prompt.
Right. So when Windows 95 came out, this is where people, I think they don't understand. Windows 95 was still a graphic overlay of DOS.
It was.
Yeah.
DOS was still the
underlying OS.
And I do
remember the switch.
They had
because we had the switch from 95 to 98.
No,
the difference in how the systems behave
over until Windows XP
difference.
When they truly break away from DOS. When they truly broke away from DOS.
It didn't break away from DOS. The problem was they had to keep backward compatibility for businesses.
Right.
There was a lot of money invested in computers. And so you had to maintain that DOS kernel. So Windows 98 was a more efficient overlay of DOS than 95. With Windows ME, they flipped it. Now the operating system was primarily the GUI with DOS capabilities. Instead of DOS with GUI capabilities, it was GUI with DOS
flip-flopped, and that's where the WinG API came into play, which was an absolute disaster. It really did nothing.
Well,
you were better off playing your DOS games on DOS than you were through Windows.
You were.
WinG was a failure, but
ME failed not because it was bad, ME failed because they didn't
No, but I'm
really
referring to
prepare.
WinG in terms of Windows 95. This is
Oh,
pre-DirectX,
yes, absolutely.
pre-Direct 3D. They completely
Yes.
revamped the API in and of itself by creating the DirectX library, as I like to call it, because it's not really a DirectX API. There's so
For
many
me,
APIs within DirectX, any revision of it,
That's true.
but
for me,
WinG
Microsoft,
was
with getting
essentially
through all
a
of this,
failure. That was Microsoft's implementation of an API to help Windows 95 run games, DOS-based games, more efficiently, and it was an absolute failure. And of course, this is still pre-true GPUs. There was no, we didn't have digital pipelines at the time. Of course, even in the original GPUs, we didn't have digital pipelines. They were very much static. But even so, a true GPU still had yet to be invented. So a lot of these, cards I have even here.
But I still remember that in the Windows, at least Windows ME times, I think we still have at least basic DirectX engines. So you already have some sort of graphic designated pipelines, at least originated from the Voodoo
but they
times.
ran primarily off of the
so
CPU.
we already had a designated pipelines just to execute the graphic. Basically, to execute the 3D graphics, we already had 3D games. I remember playing.
Yeah, but they weren't coded for a specific API in terms of hardware utilization.
No, it
was not dedicated.
It was very old.
Graphics processing unit. We didn't have shaders.
You had Matrox. Matrox had the Mystique. You had a couple of other cards. ATI had some cards. Had this new player come on, Voodoo. Or 3DFX, I mean, with the Voodoo.
Yeah, 3DFX, sadly, they're gone. But
very sadly, because they were an amazing company to work with. What was so incredible about Voodoo, though, wasn't the hardware. It was the software with Glide. For the first time, an API, a proper API, began to exist for game development. And Glide was incredible. Glide was amazing, but that was the downfall of Voodoo as well.
Yeah, Glide,
of 3DFX, because it was proprietary.
That.
You can't have a proprietary. That's what made DirectX explode like it did. It was available to everyone for everything. Suddenly, ATI cards, Matrox cards, everybody's video card worked on DirectX. Only 3DFX's card could work on Glide.
Right.
Now, I know that NVIDIA likes to say they had the first GPU. That's technically not true. Definition of a GPU is something that's capable of accelerating 3D and 2D at the same time.
Right.
That's what the idea behind it was. The Matrox Mystique completely predates everything NVIDIA did, but it did 3D and 2D at the same time. A little before the first NVIDIA card got introduced, 3DFX introduced a card called the Banshee, which was their first full 3D, 2D.
I recall the Banshee.
Card. Oh man, the Banshee was incredible. People acted like it was a minor achievement. It was a ridiculous achievement. I didn't have to.
I do, Edward. I would say that I do remember when you mentioned Banshee, I just had like this nostalgic vibes in my body. And I would say that this might be statement to what you want to say, that it was an amazing achievement, because it actually was. When you're looking at what this adapter was, actually, I would call it adapter actually.
Yes.
What this graphic adapter was able to do
it was essentially just a video engine.
When I read
it was a video adapter.
When I read about the Banshee, for me it was like beyond its time, at least a couple of years.
Well, it was. NVIDIA followed it up shortly. ATI began
Yeah, it was
offering
that
cards that were
NVIDIA
doing similar things.
256. They still, to this day, claim it was the first official
Well,
graphic
it was the first one to
processing
use the
unit.
frames. It was the first one to use the phrase.
Right.
And
But
well, that's like
marketing. And they're good at that.
There's a lot of technology that we see today that came from before. The principle of SLI, the idea of using interleave connectivity to allow two graphics cards to do half the screen each or every other line each was created by 3DFX.
We do consider it in the processors because if I will just dive out into my lovely porno folder, as I call it, with all of the block diagrams, white papers, basically because I'm mainly specifying in the microprocessors on x86, and I will look into Zen 2 or modern Skylake or even Sanikov, and I will look at the mode of operation. We still see all of those routes, which leads back to the Pentium Pro.
Right.
Well, the Pentium itself, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, guys. We're going to try to cover 30 years.
We're just coming up.
By the way, Facebook is still not connected.
Yeah, basically,
Restream is telling me it's trying to connect it, and I'm not sure if that's a timing delay.
For me, Gregory, it's not like this technology is just making turnarounds or something. We having this something which is funny what I see in the modern enthusiast space, at least for me, when I look at those people, because myself, I am not really that old, but from the other hand, I really did my homework. And the people like looking into those leaks, and they have the expectations, and they look into that, and no, that's not possible, mate. You just look at how it evolved in the last 30 to 50 years.
Fed out right now.
And you do see the patterns. It's like when you're looking at how it evolved, what was the generational jumps between the different technologies. At some point, so you see those claims made a couple of months before the actual release, and what is actually driving all of this social media now, all of these leaks, all of this memes, and all of this, I would call it absolute bullshit, which have no base on anything, and actually breaks the launches.
And the sad, I hate to interject. The worst thing about that is when they're actually right. That actually truly pisses me off, because that means the leaker, whoever he may be or she may be, is clearly breaching NDAs. I'm under many NDAs in my industry, primarily military. I could go to prison for that. And these people are utilizing these supposed leakers, which 99% of the time they're wrong. And they were way off base.
I have worked with Jim Packer from Adort TV. As you know, I have worked with Jim Packer for TV, and this guy, if you have to be honest, if you ask his YouTube videos, as well as Tom from the Mirror Officer's Dead, half of the leaks, they basically making them up, and they see what the people says, and they adjusting the new leaks and making the new leaks up.
It's their business model. Let them have it. We're not going to take part in that. But getting back on topic,
back, though, to where we were.
Yes.
There was there was something about that time frame that I don't think the younger computer community gets. Okay, so we see a new product today.
Did you specify?
Well, I'm talking about that time frame of the early PC of
like early 90s pre-Windows 95. Essentially,
yeah. Well, actually, coming Windows 95 through 98 into Millennium, even from a technology point of view.
Not a fan.
Well, from a technology point of view, every move was a leap.
Absolutely.
Every move was a leap. It was massive technology changes that would often take place. You fast forward to today, and there's a sad reality here. most of the technology we see today, especially Intel CPUs, AMD CPUs, we're seeing this to some extent. The GPUs are beginning to get back to it, but they still do this to an extent. We're not seeing massive technology leaps. We're seeing die shrinks and bigger of the same thing. It wasn't like it was back then. When a new product came out, you're like, holy shit. That's completely different. When 3D
I mean,
effects,
Edward,
yeah,
do
there
you
were
remember
several
that?
cases, especially early on, especially in the 90s, where we saw this
yes,
huge,
I think,
huge
Edward,
changes.
you do remember that when there was like, I remember there was the moment when I was joining this 86 computers and of the fun about them. And I remember seeing like, I think it was PC World magazine, and they was announcing like Atron 1 gigahertz Orion, which was, and they was claiming like supercomputer in a one chip because it was like a twice of frequency from the products from a year ago. Or there was the moments when you go to graphic card and you needed to buy another graphic card a year later because it was supporting a
I
much
agree,
different
that's correct.
standards, and you just wasn't able to play the game which was coming up. I have a Radeon Vega which is 3 years old, the new games, and that graphic card just manage it. And I remember like these early times when I needed to actually buy the new graphic card because this graphic card was supporting the APIs which
Yeah,
wasn't
especially
which the old my
DirectX,
graphic card wasn't
which was a
able
big
to manage
deal.
it at all. Yep, exactly. Like for
Yeah, I
example, I
remember having
switched
to
from
upgrade just to
GTX
play,
2200 series.
I
I
believe
switched
it
from
was
GTX 200 series to
StarCraft.
30 because I needed DirectX 11.
Yeah, I recall those days as well. But I mean, prior to those days, we didn't rely on true GPUs and
no,
API support. It was really a 2D. In a sense, I suppose there were some 3D games, not like we know them today, not like kids watching this
well, it
will
wasn't just
understand what
it
we
wasn't
consider
just
3D back
graphics.
in the day.
It
But
it it
it
it
very much,
wasn't just.
yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, I was going to say it wasn't just the graphics. So in the early days of the PC, sound was made by a little speaker, a little piece of tin shit that was inside the computer. And this company
I know.
came along.
I held one up earlier,
This company
and
I
it's
came
had
along
not
plenty of them.
light.
I had
called
plenty of them.
Creative Labs that decided they were going to develop this sound card called a Sound Blaster. Now, Sound Blaster gave us better sound, but
Here's a
the
good
moment I
ISA
can
Sound
remember,
Blaster card with RAM support, sim
exactly.
support.
I can remember there was a game that was called Dune 2.
Oh, I
And
remember
Dune
Dune.
2,
Yeah,
Dune 2 is
I
well
had
known
Sound
because
Blaster as well.
it started the RTS genre. Okay,
Yes.
but that's not, to me, what was the most impressive thing about Dune 2. Up until this point, there had been no way to truly listen to human voice communication where the game talked to you
Right,
in a
right.
real voice. And Sound Blaster had introduced a system called Vox, VOX, and this was implemented in Dune 2. And when the guy from House Atreides began to speak to you, there was this existential moment in gaming when we all just went, "Oh my God, this is so." We lost our shit
Yeah, it
because
was
they were
insane.
talking to us,
Yeah, it
and
felt immersive, and
that technology change doesn't exist today.
I
RTX ray tracing,
well, I think our
ray tracing
ray
goes back to that
tracing.
time.
Well, of course it does, but I think seeing ray tracing, and we're gonna see it far more prevalent over. I mean, we're getting way off topic here, but we do tangents all the time. That is essentially the next sense of immersion in future games, in my opinion. We're going to see it on consoles. We're going to see it across all GPU stacks from every company,
As
Intel
for the
included.
RTX, as real
RTX
RTX,
exclusives,
I think
BS.
our current stream is a great moment to actually touch RTX a little bit.
Oh, by all means.
And maybe
it's off
actually
topic,
that
but-
tinfoil hat which Edward had at the very beginning of his stream. Because with RTX, what I really don't like what NVIDIA doing here is like, this at some point maybe as the ray tracing, doing the ray traced lighting effects and shadows, maybe as revolutionary as, at least in my opinion back in the time, was tessellation. And I
agree
remember
with
having
you.
ATI
That tessellation was
true.
huge.
And at this point, we looking at I see like the similarities in how it's all developed when the tessellation was introduced, I think, by ATI with like on a bigger scale and they had
And that
this
was
true form technology.
DirectX 9?
But the true form technology was working on its own SIPs.
Sorry, guys.
And they had their own
I
true
have,
form working on their own SIPs, which was basically their own SICs, basically the own circuits built up to just do that. And I remember this moment when this is one of the moments when I decided to stay myself privately with NVIDIA. I think it was in late Fermi Kepler times, when that SIPs of ATI and their own security was basically absolutely rendered obsolete because NVIDIA just found a way how to make their tessellation on vector units, and they actually made it open source. And I see RTX in a similar way. NVIDIA keep it too much of proprietary technology.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do use NVIDIA.
And this is I am sad because of it, because if they would just open this technology, just share
as
a
far
bit
as
with
the ray
AMD
tracing, the
and
technology
work
is
with
open.
them,
DLSS
imagine what sort
is
of game fidelity
proprietary.
and graphic fidelity we can game in the games in like the next 5 years. If these companies, instead of just like NVIDIA doing proprietary, AMD doing their own stupid stuff, and they just
DXR is open
both come
source.
together,
As
making
far
this
as
breakthrough,
RTX, on the other hand,
how the games are rendered,
I'm not a
how the
fan of
graphics
RTX exclusive titles. I think it's total BS. If they want to leverage DLSS, by all means, any game developer is welcome to do so, as long as they have TSAA baked into their.
Gregory is like this. Look what just ray tracing is capable of. Just like we had Crytek developers just making this little thingy Neonoir, and they rendered this on Vega 56, the very GPU which I have my own Veribox, and they did 1080p 30 Hz of things which had a properly path traced reflections.
Right. Yeah, I recall the video.
This might be one of these groundbreaking technologies which Edward just said very short time ago, that we just not seeing it. This may be it, but at this point, NVIDIA trying to put fucking trademark on it, AMD do on this stuff and keep.
I completely agree with you on that.
We just do not have it. We do not have this.
Do not like RTX exclusive
they're
titles.
showing us.
I hate them.
What makes me
of RTX, and we have 1080p back.
What makes me sad about the way ray tracing is being viewed right now, and I'm not going to get into NVIDIA and AMD, how they're doing this. That's not what I want to talk about.
It's kind of useless. It's like beating a dead horse with a stick.
In the 90s is when we saw a lot of effort being done in ray tracing. And I'm not talking what we have today. What we have today, we're calling it ray tracing, but it's a small, tiny subset of ray tracing. I'm talking watching 60-second videos of true, complete 100% ray trace video. It was just amazing. It looked real.
And I'm sure it took thousands of hours to even render that particular video.
You were measuring the hours back then in ridiculous amounts. So you fast forward to today, and we got everybody going, oh, look at ray tracing. Well, first, you've got to have a demo that's got so many damn mirrors in it that if you shoot a gun in that game, you've got 7 years of bad luck for 50 million years.
I like that analogy.
You've got to have You got to have mirrors everywhere. They're showing these reflective moments in pools of water and stuff. Dude, when somebody's shooting at you, you're not looking at that crap.
Exactly.
We're not.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think there are. I mean,
real ray tracing yet.
Absolute bogus.
yeah, I'm more curious how ray tracing is going to play in the future, particularly in VR gaming. Because if you're looking for, I understand. I'm not much of a gamer anymore. I'm an exoseer more so, and I just like to learn about technology as I always have. But I could only imagine the immersion factor. The factor of immersion in and of itself is going to be the biggest driving factor for ray tracing. And I can't think of a single type of game outside of VR games that are truly going to sell ray tracing. And that does.
For me, ray tracing should be implemented shooters, in a proper way.
Yeah, first-person shooters. No one gives a crap about ray tracing. They want to have high frame rates.
To be honest, it's the same with physics.
Yeah.
To be honest, with the ray tracing, if you have to be very honest with the ray tracing, PCI, it's very useful technology to actually look at it. Because we can get all of these very accurate shadows rendering and lighting technologies, which really look beautiful. Like, we look at some tech demos, and like, for example, with some of the scenes, and in Metro game, which came out with this technology and actually utilized
global illumination.
The thing which I think is the best, exactly, the global illumination.
I actually did enjoy that game for about 20 minutes, and then I got really bored.
We really need to get this properly implemented.
We're still only using a portion, though. It's the same thing with physics, okay? The physics comes out, and oh my God, I was going to get excited about it. Physics could be amazing. What did we use physics for? Well, we made it when you blow up a wall, more chunks fall to the ground, and we made it so your cape waves in the wind, and we made it so the smoke looks pretty.
All the Batman.
But where's the real physics implementation? Okay, when I shot that wall and the wall exploded, why didn't the chunks of material falling to the ground damage people there, or tear up buildings next to it, or tear up why was there no direct interaction? That's what physics was.
That's also where AI will come into play.
It most
this is gonna you're going kind of not that I don't disagree with you, because I agree with you, because physics really did a disservice as far as marketing goes. Anyone that bought this physics card, a dedicated physics card, this is before NVIDIA acquired them, it's a waste of space, and I believe the API itself is frankly useless at the moment, because until we get AI more implemented into games and getting, these NPCs to interact with physical objects, which I don't see that not happening within the next several years. And both NVIDIA, Intel,
the same thing, though,
and AMD, they're all in on as far as AI and deep learning types of compute. But physics was
there
shit.
We go. We got off topic really far again.
Yeah, we always go on tangents on these shows, believe me.
So I don't know how many of your viewers even know who 3DFX was.
I can only imagine. We're not on Facebook, unfortunately. It's still.
Let
me see. I was dying to have Voodoo. I really wanted to have Voodoo.
We go back a little bit. At this point in the time frame, then you've got 3DFX, Matrox, Trident, S3.
Oh, I had a Trident S3.
ATI.
Well, no,
and
I had
NVIDIA.
the Diamond S3. My first GPU.
And Diamond.
Yeah,
Diamond
I got a
was
green screen. No wonder these PCBs have not been looking great. I have a green screen and I have a chroma key.
Yeah, you have a green screen. It's messed up.
I didn't even take that into account. Well, this ATI card is red.
There you go.
This actually comes out clear.
you had a lot of companies that were competing, but the problem was that for 3D they had gone all in on their proprietary API,
Right.
all in. Now they did okay in Direct 3D, but they were focused on Glide. So then they decided that it was time to buy a factory. They were going to start producing not just chips but cards. And by the way, if you ever had one of their cards, they produced a great card.
I did own. I don't recall exactly. I believe a Voodoo 2. I didn't. I was really sold by NVIDIA early on. I'm not gonna lie.
A lot of people were.
But I did own a Voodoo 2, and this is one. I mean, at the time, I was swapping between all manufacturers, between ATI, NVIDIA,
Right.
3DFX, Matrix, VIA, all of these manufacturers, just to see.
God,
you know,
Via's
I
a
didn't
name
even
I've
have
heard
an
in a long time.
internet connection back then. I actually had to steal my dad's credit card to sign up for AOL, just so I could have a basic internet connection, so I could play my friends in the very few online games that existed back then. But yeah, a lot of these companies failed, but they were bought out. Sadly, a lot of their technologies were bought out. Their IPs were bought out. NVIDIA bought out quite a few. SLI being one of them, despite the fact that they did change the patent over from the initial SLI patent, which I don't recall the actual acronym for SLI via Voodoo comparatively to NVIDIA. But a lot of these companies, they just sold out. Same with ATI. They sold themselves out to AMD, and I wish them nothing but the best of luck. But yeah, those early days were rough. But there was a lot of competition, which we don't have in today's market.
No, we don't. And that to me is very sad. You don't have Intel's trying to come in to give some competition in the GPU market. Based on their history, I'm not sure I'm going to buy that happening.
No, they're. I mean, I'm currently running 3-year-old 7980XE, and it's gooped up with KPX, Kingpin KPX thermal paste on a 360 AIW clocked at 4.6 gigahertz, all cores, and it's actually pretty cool. It's a very well been shipped, but yeah, there's Intel is kind of screwed in my opinion for at least the next 3 or 4 years, unless they outsource.
Yeah, they've got to realize they've got to make a change.
It's not their architecture; it's their manufacturing. That's where they let it get to their head. They realize AMD, NVIDIA, all these other companies, Qualcomm, Apple, every company is relying on third-party foundries, and they have been for many years. But Intel, from the very beginning, they've relied on their own foundries, and I think they're way in over their heads. And that was their biggest downfall, was the complacency over the last several years. Go ahead.
I think we're seeing another Pentium 4 era for Intel.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if you or most of the others recall this. The Pentium 4
era.
The Pentium 4 was a movement. They thought that this was a direction they were going to take their chips, and they discovered the Pentium 4 architecture was a dead end.
Yeah, NetBurst was terrible.
Going nowhere.
And believe me, I own several Pentium Ds, and even the 9, I believe it was a 965 EE, or was it 985, 965, 985. What have you? It was a 3.73 gigahertz base clock.
Lucas, I can't hear you, brother.
Are you talking, Lukasz?
He's talked a few times. I couldn't hear
him. Yeah, I haven't heard him in a while. You know what? Let me switch over.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, for a while I had this. How long have you been talking, dude?
I don't know. I've been trying to talk for the last 5 minutes, but I even noticed that
Well,
something's
that's
not
not
going
too
on.
bad. That's better than like half an hour, which I don't even know where we're at.
I think that's what we're seeing today is they've had that kind of shift where they've got to pull back, regroup, and come back. Intel's a big company. They've got tons of money.
Yeah, so
they can do this.
What I've been calling all of this Ryzen and Core thing is like Pentium versus Athlon again.
Yeah, it's essentially that.
That's not
bad. And
that's not bad.
the
That's
Athlon killed it, and currently Ryzen is killing it. I'm actually really excited for the Zen 3 more so than I am for the next gen RDNA 2. But we'll see how that performs. Just because I'm an Exoseer and I like 3, I mean that's a very subjective thought. I'm not saying that RDNA 2 will not perform well. I believe it will. And it's going to perform far better in a better power envelope due to TSMC's 7nm node. And this is going to be a far more mature 7nm node as opposed to the custom 8nm Samsung that Ampere's using. But yeah, I like to throw my GPUs under LN2 and beat world records. So the 39 KP is in my sights regardless of what AMD puts out. Hold on. I mean, who knows? AMD may send me a sample of a card to test to put under LN2. I'd love that.
Who knows? Hey, guys, I hate to do it, but I'm going to have to jump.
Yeah,
same mate.
This is a little bit off topic, but you know what? It was a good start to a interesting journey.
I think we've been a bit of a sloppy. It's been like a bit of a sloppy,
sloppy on this type
we had this 50 minutes delay, but I would say that at least we roughly have the outline, what we want to talk about all of this technology slowly building up, and I think we could make the next weekend one stream, being like slowly maybe set up stages of which stages of technology development, which
yeah, I mean this is not an easy topic to discuss in a short period of time. I mean, you're talking about 30 plus years.
Exactly. We just went on the open fire. We were just going to get all out and just was talking about it.
Yeah, let's get the emotions out while we can. So next time we revisit this topic, we will be mindful
of the best way for you to focus is going to be to narrow the focus, because remember, you've got to cover CPU changes, GPU changes, sound card changes, monitor changes, motherboard design changes.
That's what we will lead into, but you know, in the early stages, it was more so CPUs that drove everything. And I believe it was Lukasz.
It drove everything.
I think Lukasz may have mentioned it. It was really the Pentium era that truly changed PC gaming, and followed quickly by the AMD's K6, 2 K6 3s, and at the time,
got to go a little farther back.
No, we'll definitely go farther
back. And what I mean by that is the 386 chips really redefined the DIY market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the 286, there was a few ways to do it, but it was more difficult. The 386 was when it was, I don't recall, but the 386 motherboards became available. You had a choice of a DX or an SX. You had the ability to add easily the math coprocessor if you wanted to. And for me,
the
DX, 386 was the first I built. Yeah, the 386 was the first system I actually built. And that's where AMD really started to make their stand, because AMD 386s were actually better chips than Intel 386s. Yeah, I see that there.
It won't focus because my...
Is that a DX or an SX?
It's a DX. I want to see. It's set up for...
What speed was it?
You should be able to see it now.
Oh, dude,
this was a great
It didn't have the Microsoft logo on it.
Well, of course, because it was Windows compatible. Back in those days, now I'm all out of blur. Pick me up.
that's the 486, the AMD 486
Oh, it was
and
fantastic.
586 were competing with Pentium.
Yeah. No, you know what? Well, you know what?
That's
my
an 80.
my next
Intel
upgrade.
didn't make an 80.
Yeah, my next upgrade after this particular AM 486 by AMD, being a DX2, obviously 80 megahertz, which was a fantastic CPU. My next upgrade was a Pentium 90, and just that 10 megahertz deficit, and the architectural changes put into the Pentium. The performance improvements in games were
the stick in the box CPU.
Yeah. I still have a lot of these CPUs, a lot of these motherboards. I have a lot of K6, K62s, K63s maybe. A lot of Pentium 2s, a lot of Pentium 3s, a couple of Pentium 4s. Not a big fan of them. Quite a few AMD Durons. I don't know. They were very affordable. They just did the job. They were fantastic chips for the price. People talked a lot of shit at the time.
AMD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been blowing them up because I remember they didn't actually have the thermal throttle, so you had like a big motherfucking heatsink on top of them.
Yeah, there was
and
there
then
was
you
really
doing
no
was
thermal
overcutting
management.
and then you was removing this heatsink, and they were just like poof.
I killed
I
killed a Pentium 4 just by simply moving a PC at one point from one room to another, and somehow the heatsink fell off. Granted, it was air cooled. This was a long time ago, and I turned it on. Within 5 seconds, I smelled a lot of electrical smoke. Goodbye, Pentium 4.
The magic smoke, the beautiful magic smoke.
Thankfully, I can't smell anymore due to 2 brain hemorrhages in the front left lobe. Oh, don't worry about it, Edward. It's fantastic. I don't need to smell shit or anything like that anymore. I've gotten used to it. It's been roughly 2.5 years. But gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. We'll definitely.
It was fun.
We'll definitely.
It was big fun.
Yeah. Well, the idea behind this is not just to have a good conversation and a meaningful conversation, because obviously I enjoy them, and clearly you guys are enjoying them. And any guests that we ever have on, they're on here for a reason, because they're going to enjoy the topic of discussion. But it's also to revisit ideas, discuss topics objectively, and to hopefully teach people. So we'll see where this goes from here. We'll be in touch soon. Myself, I'll be in touch with both of you guys soon to plan out the next one. And maybe Shannon will join us for the next one. He's also a little, he's 2 years older than me. So, sorry, Edward. Yeah, you're still the OG here.
Oh, I know I'm the old man. It's okay.
But we've all delved into some of these technologies, and you more so than us.
It was all big fun.
But yeah, guys, thanks for the conversation. As far as you guys watching, we'll be back next week. What date and time?
Without
I'm not sure.
technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Technical.
Quite frankly, I'm playing around with time slots, whether it be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I know it's a weekend. People, summertime technically still, and people want to spend their days, out in the sunshine and doing this and that. But thankfully, these are pre-recorded. This is not streamed to Facebook, sadly, despite Restream. I expect my money back from them. I'm going to get a nice little check from them. It was set up, but yeah, regardless. I enjoyed the conversation, guys.
I'm out of here. You guys take it easy.
You as well.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right, guys.
Cheers, man.
Everyone,
Bye.
take care.